Hi there. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can append to a list, but make it a 2D list. This is a really great way of organizing your content and then retrieving it later on. So what I have here in the very beginning of this program is I do have an order, which is equal to a list, an empty list, but this is going to end up turning into a 2D list, and I'll show you how to do that. But in the meantime, I've also created some variables such as index, num1, and num2, and they are assigned to 0, 1, and 1 respectively. And I will talk to you about why we have it like that in just a moment. Then I created two 1D lists, one of them being colors and sizes. And this is where I can, of course, modify any of my colors that I'd like to have for whatever I'm ordering. And for sizes, same idea. I can either just choose to add more items, reduce the items, or of course, change the items themselves. Okay, so let's get into the a while true loop. So they're going to loop through in here, and the very first thing, and this is what's going to make this a 2D list. Notice how I've taken the order and I did dot append and then an empty list again. So this is creating that empty list within the current list. And that's now going to give me a space for me to append items moving forward. So let's model that. Here we have color choice. So we have which color would you like to choose from? And then what I've done is using my colors list, we're going to use a for loop and we're going to iterate through. So this is why I have num1 and num2, because what you'll see is I'm referring to num1 here. And what's going to happen in my for loop is as I iterate through, it's going to start with num1 being equal to 1. So it's going to be 1 dot. And then the color in here dot title. And now don't note that my temporary variable is color in colors because it's going to iterate through red, blue, and then green. So it'll be 1 dot red, 2 dot blue, and then 3 dot green. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. And the reason why that does increase, by the way, that number value is because it's within my loop that every time I iterate through, it is going to increase by one value. Let's keep going with the color choice. Now what I have is the color choice is going to be input prompted in the console for the end user. They will type 1, 2, or 3 because those were the numbers used to then correspond with the colors. If color choice is equal to B1, so that would be regardless of what the color is in here in my list, what is going to happen is that you are going to take order index, and this is where index is currently set to 0. So basically order 0, so we're going to see index 0, you are going to append colors 0. So which means you are going to take your first item here, index 0 colors, and it's going to be added into your new 2D list. So that would be the first element. Now, this will move on because if it's not one that was chosen by the end user, then we move on to 2. Same idea, exact same process, except of course to find that blue color, or it doesn't even really matter if it's blue, but the idea is choice number 2 is going to then be added into my new order, or option 3. If it was other than 1, 2, or 3, that would be an invalid response, and then the end user would be given this response, and then to continue back to try again. Let's look at size choice. Very much the exact same thing. The only difference really here is I have 4 items instead of 3 items. Not a big deal. I have a new variable, num2, that we're going to iterate through because, again, like num1, it's going to start at 1. And then every time we iterate through this loop, it's going to increase by 1 value. And same thing here, we have our value for size and sizes. So in my list here, we're going to iterate through and grab for small, medium, large, and then extra large. And because there are 4 items, it'll be 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, and 4 point each value here. Then again, the end user will be given the choice to type 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the same idea, please note, it is the exact same list we are appending to. And it makes sense that we're appending to it because what's going to happen is that we are going to end up creating a 2D list. So our size is going to join our color within that inner list that is in our outer list. So when we go through this, adjacent to our color, so our second element in that inner list will now be the size choice. And I will show you this live here in the console in just a moment. Then what I have is a choice to make another order. If they do want to make another order, they can just type yeah, Y or N for yes or no. I did do one little trick here is that I chose to, just in case they typed the letter, let's say the word yes instead of Y, I could actually just do it where, hey, even if it's just your first element of our string is a Y, it's going to say basically to keep going. And what's going to happen every time I restart a new or add a new order, I'm taking my index and I'm increasing it by 1. So this index value is now going to be increased from 0 to 1 the next time through if it goes through again. But my num1s are reset back and my num2 reset back to 1. Continue back in the loop. Otherwise, if they didn't type Y or yes, they are going to break this loop and then we can get to the order details. So let's see this live just to kind of see how this works, and it'll be a little bit easier to see what the code does. So if I run it, oh, sorry. Let me run that again. So we're going to run the 2D list. Which color would you like to choose from? So 1, 2, or 3. So let's say 3 for green. And then which size would we like? So let's say we're going to say small. I'm going to say yes for another order. Which color would you like to choose from? And of course, I'm going to change the wording of that, but that's not a big deal. Let's say this time I'm going to go red, and this time I'm going to go large for 3. I'm going to say no this time. And you can see now the printout here where I have just a print order, a very simple print statement. I wanted you to see the 2D list. So we have green, small, red, large. Now you are ready to iterate through, and you can do a print statement based back on our lesson, how you can retrieve those items. You should be able to do nice print statements. I would not want to see this 2D list. I am just demonstrating this 2D list in the console right now, just so you can see what it looks like, so that you can plan moving forward how to iterate through those values.